Brian, mate, thank you so much for bringing me on, and like I'm super blessed to do this, and you guys are in great hands because Brian's an absolute legend. I was on his podcast, and he's just such a great guy. So thank you, mate, for doing this. So today, he got in touch with me. He wanted me to talk about content marketing, and how you can use it in your business to build your brand. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory, who I am, just very quick, before you go, who is this weird tattooed, bearded, bald guy talking to me about something with lots of 90s memorabilia and nostalgia in his background. So my name is Ash Borland. I'm a content marketing coach. I specialize mostly in personal brands and small business owners. So coaches, consultants, freelancers, things like that. And I help them build effective content marketing strategies that is going to make them profitable and build their authority, which is why me and Brian know each other, because it's spot on what you guys need with this. So that's why he asked me to come and help you guys out. So I'm also a podcaster and things like that, but we'll leave that for another day. Today's talk that I want to go through and kind of teach you guys and explain to you is what I call the six, and I've got to try and get enough hands for that. The six golden rules of content marketing. So these 6 rules that I'm going to go through, and I'll elaborate in them. And I'm by the way, with my presentation, I'm quite plain. I don't like tons of numbers and things around. So I have literally 6 golden rules, means 7 slides, because there's one, and then I name all of them, and I'll talk about them in more detail. But these 6 golden rules are the golden rules of content marketing. So as I just said, me and Brian were just saying then, is that content marketing is very different to content creation. Content creation is the act of making content. Content marketing is the act of making that content actually viable, so it drives you business and builds your brand. So these are the 6 golden rules that will separate you from being a content creator and making you become a content marketer. And if you do all of these rules, and obviously everything is up for negotiation. Every rule I show you here, there's going to be examples where someone has broken the rules and it's worked, of course, but 99 times out of 100, to be fair, not even 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, these are the things that will see you to success. So let's bring in the first slide. So the 6 golden rules, let's dive into them. So we're going to go, they are in order, and they're in order of kind of most important to least important, with the least important one being still super important, so don't not do it. So the very first one we have is clarity. So when I talk about clarity, when we talk about your brand, your business, when it comes to content marketing, we need to talk about a clear message and a clear image. So the average human attention span, and let's do it that way, the average human attention span is 8 seconds. Okay, so you need to understand this in your mindset, the way you think. It is 8 seconds, the average human attention span. This, by the way, has gone down from 12 seconds in 2000. So in just over 2 decades, we've lost a third of our attention span. So that's a massive point to point out. That is no coincidence. There is no coincidence that has happened with the rise of social media and digital media and this ease of consumption that we have. So you have to understand that you are playing. These are the rules of engagement. These are the rules that you are going to be working with when it comes to content marketing and branding yourself and trying to get people's attention. You have 8 seconds. If someone can't work out what you do in 8 seconds, and I'm being very exaggerated there, but in 8 seconds, they're going to move on to somebody else who they can work it out. So a clear message and a clear image is vital for your content marketing success and your branding success. It's absolutely vital. If you are not clear on it, it won't work. Now, what do I mean about a clear message and a clear image? So a clear message, we'll start with that one first. Clear message is when you stand for something. You're about something. Now, the clearer this can be and the more niched down and simple it can be, the better. So for me, I'm a content marketing coach teaching all things about content marketing on my podcast, Content Marketing 101. I mean, it's pretty clear what I do. And that is making it super clear for everyone to understand. That'll be the same for anyone else. If you are in finance, if you are a coach, a consultant, whatever it may be, I need to know straight away what it is you do. Now, you can do this with subliminal messaging. You can do this with the way you write. If the stuff around me tells everybody what I do, but it's super clear, and you've got to be very obvious in 8 seconds. Then you have, and also, so if someone asks you what you do, you have to be able to go, bang, that's what I do. And it has to be obvious through all your content. The second one is clarity of image, which is, what do you look like? So people look at you, and they will look at you in certain ways. And if they look at you at a glance, if it takes them longer than 8 seconds to remember that you're the person they've seen before, they'll move on. So having a clear image of the way you look, the design that you use, the aesthetics that you use, the fonts, the colors, the clothes you wear. So probably today was a bad example because I did wear a blue shirt today, which I know I would never normally wear. But the way you guys are seeing me now is the way that you will 9 times out of 10 see me on all my content. I'll always be bald. I've always got a beard. I'm always wearing a white t-shirt, and I've always got my tattoos on show. This makes it very clear for you to know, oh, that's the same person that I saw before. You're giving people signals that you are around. So I don't know why my screen's just gone off there, but that's quite cool. You're giving people signals that you are around. Now, though, this is clarity. So if you haven't in your content, think about how can you be clear on your message? How can you be clear on your image? So once you're clear on your image, and once you're clear on your image and that message, we move on to rule 2. So rule 1, that's very important, the most important of all. If you haven't got that right, yeah, I had to press that. I love that. And I just like pressing that button. But if you haven't got it right, we're already failing. But if you get it right, you can move on to rule 2. So rule 2 is consistency. So once you've got a clear message and a clear image, you have to be consistent in delivering this whole thing, this package. So the average human takes 8 to 10 online interactions before they will consider buying from you. So you need to make sure that these people are interacting with you 8 to 10 times per person. Now, those interactions, again, need to be clear and consistent, because if they are interacting with you on one video might be about your coaching product, your consulting product, and then the next video is what you had for breakfast, this is going to start to mess up the clarity that I spoke about and the consistency. So you need to make sure that you show up as much as you possibly can, and you are consistent to it. So if you say you're going to do content once a week, do it once a week, but make sure you do it once a week. If you say you're going to do it 3 times a week, do it 3 times a week, and make sure that you stay on topic. Do not go off on a tangent. Talk about the same thing over and over again. It is very important to be consistent, because visibility is the thing that is going to win you business, not ability. I love this term where I say visibility is more important than ability itself. And that is so true. You need to be the person that they see 8 to 10 times. Every client that you are talking to needs to, on average, as I said, interact with you 8 to 10 times. So the whole game is a numbers game on trying to get those up. Now, in the world of digital marketing, social media, we are at the mercy of the algorithms. And I'm sure that, you've heard of the algorithms. And if you haven't, they're going to be the bane of your life once you now know about them. Algorithms on social media platforms and all content platforms do not show your content to everyone at all times. So if you have, some algorithms will show potentially 5% of your audience that piece of content you created. So if you're uploading content once a week, so let's talk about it that way. If you're uploading content once a week and it takes 8 to 10 online interactions before someone's going to consider buying from you, that's 8 to 10 weeks. If the algorithms were to show everybody your content, so they're not, so if it's only 5%, you can quickly see how being more consistent on a daily or more than once a week frequency is vital, because otherwise that algorithm could move it to the point where the 8 to 10 online interactions could take a year. So we really need to make sure that you are consistent in delivering that content on a consistent schedule. That is the second most important thing. The third one we have is make it searchable. So here in the UK, where I'm from, we have a hymn that we used to sing in primary schools. I don't know which is like junior school. I don't know if they do it over where you are, but we had this hymn and it was called "The Wise Man Builds His House Upon the Rocks, and the Foolish Man Builds His House Upon the Sand." So I love this song. It just goes in my head with what I do here, because your content, you want to build your content marketing strategy on the rocks. You want to be the wise man or the wise woman, and you want to build your content on the rocks. You do not want to build it on the sand. Now, what do I mean by this? Because that's like, okay, great. What do I mean by building on the sand? I mean by building your content on searchable platforms. Long form searchable platforms are the foundation to any successful content marketing strategy. So what are they? They are YouTube, podcasting, and blogging. Those are your three long-form searchable platforms. And all of your content endeavors should be made at those first. You should not be focusing your energy on social media first. The reason why, and there's a big reason why, if you are focusing your energy on searchable content, so long-form searchable content, SEO platforms, search engine optimization stuff, that content is created and you make sure it's evergreen, which means it can be consumed at any point, like this presentation. Then what happens is you might make that content once. You invest your time, your energy, your money to create that. Then you put it on this platform and you let it go and let it off into the wild. And over years, this asset is working for you over and over again, because if people have that question or they are wanting to learn something, they are going to find it. That is a podcast, a YouTube video, and a blog. This is amazing because it's going to drive leads for you. Once you've built up a library of content, you're going to drive leads to your platform, to your business. That is incredible. You're going to start getting this natural inbound lead source, as opposed to building your house upon the sand, where you're going to be on social media, where social media is what I call a never-ending treadmill. You on social media, your decay rate, which is how long that piece of content lasts, can go anywhere from 3 minutes on Twitter all the way up to maybe, if you're lucky, 2 or 3 days. So this means that what I mean by that is when you post that piece of content, it's relevant for this allotted amount of time, for that decay rate, and then it disappears. And the only way then people will ever find it is if they jump on your profile, your Instagram profile, your LinkedIn, and they sieve through the content you've made and they find it that way, which of course people do, but it's not searchable. They have to find you. But at that point, the work's already been done. So what you want to do is make sure you create your brands on a searchable platform and then distribute your content onto social. So build it on YouTube first, build it in a blog first, build it in a podcast first, and then chop it up, repurpose, and put it on social as a distribution tool, but always make content with search engines in mind, because this is the thing that over 5-10 years is going to 10x your bank balance and your inbound leads. That is rule number 3. Let's look at rule number 4. Quantity over quality. All right, this is like blasphemy when I say this. People get really, really wound up when I say this. But the reality is, first of all, with quantity over quality, is the term quantity and the term quality are subjective. You are going to hear people say quantity over quantity all the time. You might even tell yourself this as a way to make yourself feel good. But the quality and quantity of anything is subjective. Your idea of quality will be very different to my idea of quality. And my idea of quantity, 9 times out of 10 with everyone I meet, I mean, even me and Brian chat at the beginning, my idea of quantity is very, very different to a lot of people's idea of quantity. Some people's quantity is 2 videos a week, 2 podcasts a week. Some people's quantity is 1 a month. Some people's quantity is 5 a day. That's kind of my idea. So that is what it is. Some people's quality is filming on a phone. Some people's quality is spending 10 hours editing something on DaVinci Resolve. So quantity and quality are completely subjective. But there is one rule that's really important. You as your person, whatever your quantity versus quality in your minds is, quantity should always win first. And the reason why is that You are trying to, we go right back to that consistency. You're trying to get yourself known. This is a brand building game. This is an awareness game, a visibility game. And the reality is people get better over time. So the more content you create, the more stuff you put out into the world, it's never going to have a negative effect in the long term. It's exactly the same thing if we talk about this in a fitness idea and talk about like health. You don't go into the gym and do one squat and say, I'd rather do one really good squat than do 100 squats. We don't work that way in any other life. We don't go, oh, do you know what? It's better to have this really good quality one movement than it is to have you don't go, I'm going to run 100 meters in a really great way, or I could just kind of get myself through a 5K. Which one do you think is going to be better for your health? And it's exactly the same for your health of your business. Is it going to be better if you can do more content than less? Yes. It's a reps game. It's a numbers game. You want to try and output as much as you can. And the big reason why this is as well, is that when you do quantity, you will get better, faster, and this is how your skill set will compound, especially if you've never made content before. Fail forwards, fail fast, and you will win. This is really important. Anyone who tells you that it's quality over quantity usually is trying to tell themselves that it's okay for the lack of effort that they are putting in. That is the be all and end all when it comes to this. You need to put more and more and more in your level of quantity. And there's a balancing point. That is, no one's saying this. There's one guy I know who talks about this a lot, and he's spot on. But everyone else tells you that it's quality over quantity, and that's not true. Because if I made 700 videos and they were pretty all right, I would have been very good by my 700 video. If you made 6, but they were really, really good, who do you think is going to have the bigger audience? Me. So don't be that guy. And so then we have the 5th rule. So the 5th rule is reduce friction. Okay. So you need to reduce the friction of your creation and marketing process. Now, when I talk about reducing friction, this goes hand in hand. All of these connect. They're all like one long thing. This goes hand in hand with what I talked about quantity over quality, is that the way for you to produce a level of quality at a high quantity, at a high volume of content, then the only way that you can do this is you have to find ways to reduce friction. Okay, so reducing friction is trying to speed up the process. So wherever you can find ways that is going to save you 5 minutes or 10 minutes on the editing, on the filming, whatever it may be, you have to constantly be looking at trying to do this. Now, this can come in the sense of having a pre-built place where you are always going to record your videos. This could come in the sense of having something like StreamYard, where you have a studio set up in StreamYard on a web-based browser, like literally we're on StreamYard right now, having that set up with all of your overlays and with all of your graphics on and everything you need to be able to go live, press record, and it's done. Whatever it may be, you can be using teleprompters and saving up scripts whilst you're saving up 20, 30 videos so that you can pick it up every single day. It could be having a content schedule 30 days in advance so that you don't have to think about it. The idea of this is constantly about trying to reduce the friction as much as possible. I'm obsessed with this, like obsessed. And I'm getting to the point now where I would rather I look at stuff and go, okay, that might be 5,000 UK, £5,000 for that equipment. But if I buy that equipment, I'm currently producing 3 videos a week. That equipment could probably get me up to about 12. So £5,000. If I work that out, I probably make that back in about 6 months with the output of what that is worth on top. So you have to look at all these ways with your business. How can you reduce friction? Because if you reduce friction, you will do the commitment. You will be consistent. So this is vital. And always look at this. Always look at, okay, it took me 10 minutes to make that. How can I do it in 8? It took me 8. How can I do it in 6? Whatever it may be, to reduce that time is going to make you, 1, more visible, and 2, more likely to actually pull the trigger and do it. So that is rule number 5. And the final rule, which we'll talk about, and then I'll talk a little bit off the presentation about a couple of things. But the final rule we have, which is no one cares. You're going to be thinking, gosh, this guy's really cynical. But I'm very cynical about this sort of stuff, because the final rule is you need to understand that no one cares. No one cares about what you're doing. No one cares about whether you messed up. And no one cares about whether you did really, really well. This sounds really negative, and it's actually the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever, because when you start to embrace the idea that no one cares, you start to realize that it's all about what you enjoy. It's all about how do you like making content. This is something that I see people talk a lot about, and they talk about this in regards to engagement, in people not liking their content, not commenting on their content, not sharing their content, not being involved. And the real truth is everybody else is more interested in their lives to really, really worry about what you're doing. So don't take it personal when someone doesn't like, doesn't comment, doesn't share. That is not a reflection on the quality of your content, but is in fact a reflection on the fact that people are busy. Okay? So you need to understand this. And this, I will have to say to people, is the biggest killer of a lot of potentially amazing content creators who could build a big business through content marketing, and a very big business, is that they are too precious about their content and what other people think. But if you can understand that you are creating this for one purpose, to raise awareness of who you are, what you do, and to drive traffic to your business, then that is all that matters. Don't focus on the vanity metrics, the likes, the shares, the follows, because they don't mean anything. People who like your content are not most likely going to buy it. People who share your content will most likely not buy the thing you do. Business is not done in comments. It is done in direct messages. It is done in Zoom calls. It is done face to face, but it is not done in those comments. So don't get too upset when things don't work the way you think they do. That is really important to understand, that no one cares. And when you do that, you can create what you want. When you get 3 views on one video, but 100 million on another, you know they're both just as good as each other. You enjoyed them both the same. You have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy making the content. You have to enjoy talking about what you're doing. And the right people will hear the message and the wrong people won't. And that's all that matters. So those are the 6 rules, okay? I will do a little bit about this on top of this, but those are the 6 rules. So just to recap with them, and we can bring me full screen now if you want with that. But just to recap on them, the first one we have is clarity of message and image. Be super clear. If you're not clear on what you do, then people aren't they're going to be confused. And so they won't follow you. They won't buy from you. They'll just be confused about what you do. So they'll move on to somebody else. The second one is consistent. Once you're clear on that, be consistent. As soon as you're consistent, things will work. People will start to notice you, and you're starting to build up that trust. Third one, make sure that your content is built on search first. You're not building that content on social media platforms, but in fact building it in a place where over time it's going to start to work for you more than you work for it. Fourth one, wait there, I just got to have it up here because otherwise I'll get myself distracted. Fourth one is quality over quantity. Quantity over quality. Make sure that you are banging out content all the time. It is a numbers game. Do not focus on the quality of the content as much as the quantity. If it takes you 2 hours to make one video, can you make 2 videos in 2 hours and just dial it back a bit? Keep doing it. Get the reps in. It is a reps game. It is a numbers game. You can do it. To make that possible, you have to move on to number 5, reducing friction. Try and gain any minutes where you can. Try and get things set up wherever possible so that you don't have to do things that are going to cause you aggravation and might stop you from making content and stop you from posting it. And then the final one, nobody cares. Once you let go of the idea that nobody cares about what you're doing or saying, then you will start to actually attract people because you will be freer, you will be more authentic, you will feel more relaxed. It is vital that you get yourself around that. Those 6 rules will get you to content marketing success. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. And it will happen. I promise you, it will work if you follow all 6 of those rules. So there you have it. Ryan, hopefully that's good.
That was amazing, man. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Solid, to the point. Connects from women. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff, man. And you're making. I think you have a lot of people thinking, making me think too. So, but we have questions.
That's good.
We have questions.
People are like, what are you doing?
You're right.
Wrong.
So I guess maybe I think you might have already answered this in what you did. It says how do you show up every day and not get discouraged when there's no engagement?
I agree. Yes. So the first thing, I've answered them in this, but to put it into context for the questions. So how do you show up every day when there's no engagement? It's hard. Okay. So I've just been very matter of fact in those rules. Now in the Q&A, I'm very open about this stuff. It's not easy. It sucks. It really does suck. And you will, it's impossible. It's really hard to not judge your self-worth on when no one turns up and you're still there. But I find for myself, and when I work with clients, but let's just say for myself in this capacity, I have to remind myself why I am doing this. And it's not, the likes, the engagement, that's not going to feed my family. But putting out a piece of content, and that's what I have to remind myself, putting out a piece of content that reinforces my my methods, my authority, whether one person watches it, nobody watches it, or 100 people watch it, it's a brick that, little bricks build big castles. It's another brick. I'm laying another brick in the foundation of the empire that I want to build. And I have to remind myself that. And don't get me wrong, like I go live every day. I do live videos every day. And there are days when loads of people watch. There are days when nobody's watched. And I have to remind myself that. And I think that's what that's how I would say to anybody is just remember why you're doing it. And it's very hard to not focus on that likes and the engagement, but they don't matter. I promise you they don't matter.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That was amazing. Great answer, man. Great answer, man. So next question is, when do you tie in your call to action to your content? How does that work?
Awesome. So every piece of content should have a call to action, 100%. Now, it's really important with content to make sure that your call to action, there's one call to action, really. You should only really have one. And it should be what they call a soft call to action. There's been studies to show that if you do more than one, you dilute the chance of someone doing anything. Whereas, again, clarity is very clear. If you're very clear on what you want them to achieve, what you want them to do, then it will work. So do it. Now, for me, I would say the call to action I always have is I have a free masterclass. So I'm always like, check out the free masterclass. I put it right at the end. The reason why I put it right at the end is it's like a OVO, so opt-in value offer. That's the kind of basic function, basic structure. So opt-in is where someone is opting in to watch your content. So if you're doing a live stream or it's a YouTube video, anyone who's stopping and watching a video, they have opted in to watch it. They've decided that they're going to watch this. So they've given consent to you. They're opting in. So you then want to make sure that you make it valuable for them. So you don't want to go, and this is what people do a lot at the beginning of their content. Hi, it's Ash Borland here. Welcome to the show. And I do this. It's hard when you're live because you fall into that trap. But really, you want to make sure you deliver the value. And once you've delivered the value, you will then do the offer. So that's your call to action at the end. Because it only then, and people will say, well, I'm losing, that's not great because if the person doesn't get to the end of the video or to the end of the podcast or the end of the blog, then I could lose them. But the argument with that is, if they didn't get to the end, they aren't the right client for you anyway. So you want to, it's a bit like the Marvel kind of franchise. If you, I can hear Brian laughing in the background. We all know the people who like it will sit through the credits so we can see that little bit extra. And the true Marvel fans will, and the ones that aren't, they won't. And because they don't even know that, okay, I'll go now, I'll pay my ticket, I've done it. That's what you got to think about it. Your call to action should be that thing for the true Marvel fans at the end who are like, yeah, I'm interested. So one call to action and probably the last thing that you put at the end of the video.
Awesome, man. Awesome. One last question, Ash.
Yeah,
so we'll get you out of here. How do you measure How do you measure what content posts are actually working? I guess as opposed to not working.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Again, it all depends on how you measure it and what you're trying to measure. So, if you're looking at views, then you measure it against views. If you're looking at subscribers, then you measure it against subscribers. I mean, this is going to sound, you can be like, yeah, obviously. It all depends on what your motivation is. Like I said at the beginning about getting disheartened. For me, what I measure it by, and this is always I try to say for my clients and I work with them, I measure it by, is it building my brand forward? So is it something that is it some angle that I haven't covered off that now I have? So I measure it by that way. And I also measure it by the inbound leads. I don't do any cold calling, any form of outbound outreaching stuff. So everything I do, every cent of money and dollar of money and pounds of money I make is from people coming to me because of my content. So that's how I measure it. And I think I try to get my clients to do that same. I say, like, the best way to do it is just stop doing all other outreach if possible. If you're brave enough, that you try and stop it for if you can do it, stop for 3 months, hammer it for 3 months, you'll know if it's working or not, because people will come to you or they won't. The engagement or the likes and things, that can make you feel good. But if it doesn't generate leads and income, it's not going to do anything. So I myself measure it by my discovery calls and my bank balance. That's the way I measure it. And I think that sounds a bit, sometimes we live in a society where people don't like to talk about money, but the reality is if you're content marketing, you're trying to drive sales. So measure it by whether you made any money from it or not. And don't worry about whether 4 people liked it and 1 person loved it and the other person said it was supportive. Think about, have I got enough money to pay my mortgage this month from it? That's what I would say.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. We are good, man. We are done for today, at least for the first session here. First session of today. We got Andrew Ryder coming on here at 5:30 this evening.
Oh, nice.
And and we got we'll talk about tomorrow. Well, later on, we'll talk about tomorrow later on. But amazing stuff, man. Great stuff. I'm glad, so honored to have you on here on the challenge. And this is, I hope everybody got a lot out of that, because it's a challenge in and of itself to get the content out, because it's like a race now. Who can put out more content, who can show up more, who can put out more, I mean, the right types of content, I guess, in that kind of way.
I would say I love that challenge in the race. Just to echo that before we kind of go,
Yeah.
Like me and my wife talk about this a lot, and I say, and the way I refer to it a lot is, this is like a real estate land grab. And think about, go back 400, 500 years ago, when maybe not even that, say 400 years ago, where all of a sudden people could buy more, they could buy land, and the people who bought the land has grandfathered that through. So now these are the exceptionally wealthy people nowadays, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 generations later, but they are the people who bought the land and they bought it all up. We are one of the very few kind of generations where we're lucky, because we are now in a digital landscape, and this is digital real estate. And I like to say to people all the time is, that's what I say about, like, the way I talk about the bricks, like one piece of content, is it's just about, I need to make that before anyone else makes that. I need to own that before anyone else owns that. You need to buy, I buy domains, I do everything, because the content is establishing your foothold. You're so right, it's a race. People who did it 10 years ago are 10 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
We'll never catch them up if they keep going. You'll never catch them up.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't mean that you can't not start buying digital real estate now. You will regret it if you don't, because all that's going to happen is that in 20 years time, and I do mean like 20, 30 years time, a long period of time, you'll never be able to crack into this market. You won't. It'd be like trying to become a bank now, like going, I know. So we are in a very exciting time to be alive in regards to digital landscape. And I said this to you off air. It's about the way I described it to one of my friends who's a YouTuber. I said, it's like sitting on an oil field and knowing that there is billions of dollars worth of oil under the ground, but you just can't be bothered to dig. And it's up to you. It's just, I'm going to dig deeper than everybody else. And hopefully, if you guys are in here and you want to dig deep as well, join me on the journey. Join me and Brian on the journey. That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's there. It's completely there.
It's definitely there. Awesome stuff, man. I know we can talk about this pretty much all night. This has been great. It's been great, but we're going to get you out of here. I appreciate you so much, and I hope you guys got a lot out of this. We'll see you on the next session very shortly. Take care. First session of day 9. We're out.